Imagine a continent where millions thrived for thousands of years, until an invisible enemy, disease, war, and displacement, wiped out entire nations. This is the story of the Native Americans, the first Americans, whose voices echo through history, yet whose struggles continue today. Welcome to Tale Haven. Hit subscribe and join us as we uncover the untold story of these incredible peoples. Native Americans, also known as American Indians or First Americans, are the indigenous peoples of what we now call the United States. Their history stretches back tens of thousands of years, encompassing hundreds of distinct tribes with unique languages, cultures, and traditions. Today, over 9 million Native Americans live across the U.S., carrying forward traditions that have survived centuries of upheaval. But to understand their story, we must look at the complex political and cultural relationship between tribal nations and the U.S. government, a relationship rooted in sovereignty, treaties, and resilience. Long before Europeans arrived, the Americas were home to thriving civilizations. Early humans, called Paleo-Indians, migrated from Asia over 25,000 years ago via the Bering land bridge. These early communities developed sophisticated hunting techniques and unique cultural practices. By 8000 BCE, as climate stabilized, complex societies emerged. The Mound Builders constructed massive earthworks at sites like Watson Break and Poverty Point, showing remarkable social organization. Trade networks spanned from the eastern woodlands to the Gulf of Mexico, eventually giving rise to the Mississippian culture in cities like Cahokia, which housed over 20,000 people at its peak. Cultural diversity was immense. North America was divided into 10 cultural areas, from the Arctic to the Southwest, each with distinct languages, traditions, and ways of life. Most tribes viewed land communally, a stark contrast to European concepts of private ownership. In 1492, everything changed. European colonizers brought diseases like smallpox, which decimated populations, some regions losing up to 90% of their people in just 1 century. Colonization also brought war, displacement, and exploitation, sometimes even reaching the scale of genocide. While some changes, like the reintroduction of horses, revolutionized Plains Indian cultures, the overall effect was catastrophic. Traditional societies were disrupted, land was lost, and cultural practices were threatened. U.S. government policies, like the Indian Removal Act of 1830, forced thousands of Native Americans from their homelands, leading to tragic events such as the Trail of Tears. Later, laws like the Dawes Act broke up communal lands and attempted to erase tribal identity through assimilation and boarding schools. Despite centuries of oppression, Native nations retained sovereignty. Tribal sovereignty refers to a tribe's inherent authority to govern itself within U.S. borders. This legal and political recognition stems from treaties, the U.S. Constitution, and Supreme Court rulings. The Marshall Trilogy of early 19th century cases, Johnson versus McIntosh, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, and Worcester versus Georgia, helped define tribal sovereignty, balancing federal oversight with self-determination. Today, there are 574 federally recognized tribes, each with the right to govern, enforce laws, levy taxes, and manage resources on their lands. Tribal governments provide education, healthcare, infrastructure, and environmental protection, though federal funding is often insufficient. Indian reservations, numbering 326 across the U.S., are the heart of tribal governance, though jurisdictional complexities continue, especially regarding non-native individuals. The legacy of colonization is visible in modern challenges faced by native communities. Health disparities are profound. Diabetes, heart disease, and alcoholism disproportionately affect native populations. Historical trauma, cumulative emotional and psychological wounds passed through generations, continues to shape mental and physical health. Economic challenges persist. Native Americans are among the most impoverished groups in the U.S., with limited access to capital, education, and opportunities on reservations. Land ownership issues like fractionalization and checkerboarding make development difficult. Food insecurity is also a major concern. Societal discrimination compounds these issues. Native women face the highest per capita rates of sexual violence. Stereotypes and cultural appropriation persist, including sports mascots and misrepresentation in media. Despite legal protections, Native Americans continue to fight for justice and recognition. Yet the story is not only one of struggle. Native Americans are actively preserving and revitalizing their cultures. Language programs like immersion schools run by the Cherokee Nation aim to save endangered languages. Traditional arts, storytelling, and ceremonies continue to thrive. Historic achievements abound. Sequoia's Cherokee syllabary enabled written communication in newspapers, while the Haudenosaunee Confederacy inspired democratic principles later reflected in the U.S. Constitution. Native agriculture has contributed crops like corn, beans, and squash to the world, forming the foundation of global food systems. Spirituality, music, and sports also remain vital. Ceremonies, powwows, and traditional ball games connect communities and maintain cultural identity. Native American history includes complex relations with Europeans and Africans. Intermarriage, cooperation, and conflict shaped identities. Slavery existed among tribes and was influenced by European colonization, though Native practices differed from the European system. Today, Native American identity is primarily political, based on tribal citizenship and family lineage. Blood quantum laws and tribal enrollment determine membership, leading to debates about ethnic shifting and disenrollment. Genetic studies show varying degrees of Native ancestry across populations, highlighting centuries of intermixing, but cultural identity remains central, not just DNA. Despite these challenges, initiatives support Native communities. Programs like the CDC's Healthy Tribes promote wellness with culture-first approaches. Universities offer academic and cultural support for Native students. Organizations like the NCAI and NARF advocate for sovereignty and rights. Environmental justice is also a key focus, with tribes protecting sacred lands and waterways, sometimes even creating indigenous marine stewardship areas. The story of Native Americans is one of resilience, innovation, and cultural richness. From complex pre-Columbian societies to modern movements of sovereignty and revitalization, Native peoples continue to fight for recognition, justice, and preservation of their heritage. Understanding this history is vital, not only to honor their past, but to support a future where Native communities thrive. If you found this journey through time and culture enlightening, subscribe to Tale Haven and join us for more stories that the world should never forget.